there, beautiful people. You're listening to Cast a Ripple by Carla Berger from Cape Town, South Africa. Hello friends, and welcome to the latest episode of Cast a Ripple. Cast a Ripple and Be a Ripple is a space where I like to share life-enhancing tools that absolutely anybody can use to better improve the quality of their day-to-day lives. So today I want to talk to you about something that took me a very long time to figure out, and that is intuition. So if you've watched a bunch of my other things or read some of my blog content, you'll know that I always refer to a knowing. There's always a knowing, and I talk about that knowing as something that I deeply experience, but it's not something that has always been second nature to me or first nature. It's something that was buried very, very deep inside of me under my ego and conditioning and teaching and just brainwashed away. It was something that I had to uncover for myself. So there's kind of like a process that you go through to be able to understand this concept. And it first resonated with me a year and a half ago when I read Women Who Run with the Wolves, this book. So this is a very interesting book. It's by Clarissa Pinkola Estés, and I'm not sure which episode it was, but there is an episode specifically on the book. One of my previous episodes was on it, so feel free to go and listen to that. That was more just like a general outline of the book, but there's so much content and meat in this book that you can't really do it with one episode. It's more like 1,000 of them, because every single thing can be picked apart. So if you're looking for something that's gonna take you a while to get through but is really thought-provoking, I would really suggest going to read this. But I'm going to talk about intuition specifically with regards to this book, and what this book is full of stories, and they kind of get picked apart because storytelling is a very important way to give knowledge. And this one story specifically spoke to me at a time where I was very confused about what intuition is and where's my intuition gone, and I feel like I don't have that. Everyone else seems to have that, but I am mostly very confused about life and in which direction to go, and I overthink things so much. So this one story is about Vassilissa. You're gonna see me peeking to my notes, by the way. Vassilissa is a story about this girl that her mother dies. Her mother that protected her and comforted her throughout her entire life dies, and her and her father is left alone. And her mother leaves her this doll and says that throughout her life, when she needs guidance, she can consult with the doll. And her father kind of moves on with life. He marries like the evil stepmother with the two evil stepsisters, and while the father is not looking, they would torment Vassilissa immensely. And she'd be so nice and understanding, and would just give in to all it is that they want, even if it were ridiculous tasks like going out in the middle of night to go look for firewood because they let the fire die. So then Vassilissa goes out into the scary woods on her own, but she has a little doll with her, and she needs to go find who they call Baba Yaga, right? Yes, Baba Yaga. So Baba Yaga is this witch that lives in the forest, so she needs to go and find this witch to go and get fire. But meanwhile, the stepmother and the stepdaughters actually plan this so that she would go seek Baba Yaga and Baba Yaga would kill her and eat her. So she goes, and there's a bunch of things that she encounters along the way, all the while having her doll and consulting with the doll. When there's like a fork in the road, then she asks the doll which way, the doll tells her which way to go, and she ends up at Baba Yaga's hut, which is a very weird house on chicken legs and with a mouth, and it's very creepy. But she still goes on in to ask Baba Yaga for fire, and Baba Yaga says, all right, you can have fire, but you need to do a series of tasks for me first. So Baba Yaga gives her these ridiculous tasks, not just cooking and cleaning, but also sifting through dirt to find poppy seeds and separating the poppy seeds from the dirt, and the same with something about maize. And so there's like ridiculous amounts of stuff for her to do, and Baba Yaga always thinks that she'll not be able to do this, but the doll helps Vassilissa to accomplish these tasks. So it's like 2 or 3 days that she spends with Baba Yaga, and eventually Baba Yaga says, all right, you know what, are there any questions that you want to ask? And she asks a few questions about things that she saw on the road. It was like a guy on a white horse, a guy on a red horse, and a guy on a black horse that she saw, and that all just comes down to the life, death, life cycle of the day, and not only day, moments and stuff in your life. Anyway, and then she stops asking questions because the doll warns her not to ask questions. And then Baba Yaga says, okay, well, here you go, you can have one of these skulls. There's like skulls in her yard that is flame. So yeah, take the fire, just go home, do your thing, you've got your fire. So she tracks back through the woods with this skull on a stick that's on fire, and while going back home she kind of gets scared of this skull thing because it looks and makes her feel very powerful, and it looks kind of scary and it makes her scared. But she doesn't throw it away, she keeps on going, brings it back to the stepmother, and then the story ends very brutally with the skull scorching the stepmother and the stepdaughter to death. So it's a very, yeah, it's not a story tell children, definitely not. Maybe retweak that when trying to tell the story to children. But for me, they then outline 9 steps to get to intuition, and this is how they pick the story apart. So it says there are 9 steps. The first step is to let the too good mother die. So there's this mother in the story that keeps on, comforting and protecting Vassilissa, but it's not really for her greater good to be that comforted and protected the whole time, because the world is not always light. The world is sometimes dark, and that is what Vassilissa learns when her too good mother dies. And for us in real life, I think our too good mother dies when we go through an event in our lives. We kind of shook, we're kind of woken up. There's like a trauma or a happening in our lives where this entire time we've been kind of sleepwalking to the realities of life, and that just jolts us awake and makes us realize that, there's more to this than just sunshine and roses, and that's okay to feel a bit frightened and frantic about that at the beginning and be scared and sad of it. But that trauma is needed in our lives for us to be able to move more towards our wilder women, more towards our intuition, towards our true power. So that's the first step. The second step is the shadow, and understanding that there is shadow in life. So Vassilissa sees that the stepmother and the stepdaughters aren't really that good. They're compared to rats in the story, so really bad people. And she sees that and understands that, but she tries to combat that with being too nice the whole time. She just gives in the whole time. She doesn't have a backbone, so to speak. So That's what was bad from the good too good mother, is she didn't really prepare Vassilissa for dealing with these shadows in life. And these shadows aren't always external things. The shadows can be internal things that are bothering you in your psyche, and you just keep on giving into them, or ignoring them, or just doing what they say, instead of actually looking deeper and questioning what it is that's there. So that's the second step. The third step is the doll that the mother gave her. So she goes into the woods, she's tracking into the woods to get this fire, and the fire, which was her natural intuition, has been extinguished by these shadow forces in her life. So she needs to go and find her fire again. So she tracks into this wilderness, and it's creepy and it's scary, and she has no way to understand where she's going except this little doll in her pocket. So what that is telling me is that we always have a little doll. There's always a doll with us. No matter how small that doll is and how tiny that little voice is in your head, there is a little doll telling you what is right and what is wrong, where to go. And right and wrong is a matter of perspective from your personal space in life. So right and wrong is, there's no such thing as right and wrong, just right or wrong for you, for what you want to achieve, for what you want to be, for what you want to become in that specific moment, right? So you kind of use this doll to scope the more interesting or the little intricate details in your life. Like, what do I want to have for dinner? I want chicken. Okay, so that's the little doll, and you can start to talk to that little doll and give her tiny little tasks and tiny little decisions to kind of bring her back to life again. So going with your intuition, going with the first thing that pops up, like, what do I want to dress in today? Sometimes we're so in a space where even trying to figure out what you want to wear becomes a mental struggle. And that's exhausting, seriously. We need to get over that and be able to jump, do it. And that's this little doll. Feeding her and encouraging her and speaking to her more and more and more throughout your day makes her stronger, and it makes your life much more simpler, because you can just go with the flow and go with what is speaking to you. Away from ego, away from what people would expect you to wear, away from whatever it is that you are conditioned to believe, knowing and understanding what it is that you want in that specific moment. That's what the doll entails. Okay, so that's step number 3 towards your greater intuition. Step number 4 is Baba Yaga, and this is this witch that looks awful, and she's wild and crazy. She's somewhere here deep inside of your psyche, very much buried under all of the conditioning and the ego and the world's thoughts and your own thoughts about who you're supposed to be. Very deeply buried. And this is your wild woman. This is your truest, rawest form, without conditioning. It's wild, and it's not living up to social standards, and it's powerful beyond measure, and sometimes a bit scary. So Baba Yaga, getting to know her, to see her, to be frightened of her, to see all the weird and wonderful things that you never saw in yourself, and understanding that those parts are also part of you, but that you've been suppressing them because of ego, because of people telling you what to do and what not to do, and you being allowed to, or allowing them to do that. So seeing Baba Yaga, understanding that that part is actually you are actually that powerful witch, wild woman, wolf woman. Okay, that's 4. Then 5 is the purification tasks that Baba Yaga gives Vassilissa. So she gives her cleaning work to do, like cleaning the house and cleaning the clothes and doing the laundering, sweeping, and all of that is a purification that goes on in your psyche. When you see Baba Yaga and you understand that wild woman nature that you actually are, you start to sweep and clean out what no longer serves you in your reality. You start to question things, to understand that, ugh, this actually doesn't work for me. This doesn't belong here. This belongs here, rather. So you do like a cleansing sweep of your psyche, and that's a continuous thing that you keep on doing throughout life. But you've never cleaned house before this moment, so there's a lot to do when you first start to do this. So the purification tasks. Then there's the sorting tasks. That is a more intricate cleaning, a more intricate knowing, getting to understand that you are much more powerful than this, than what you've ever given yourself credit for. I mean, Baba Yaga gives Vassilissa this one task of, there's a heap of poppy seeds and dirt, and she wants her to sort the poppy seeds from the dirt. And this seems like an absolutely impossible task, and Vassilissa starts doing that, and then the doll tells her to go to sleep, and the doll sorts it out while she's sleeping, and when she wakes up, everything is sorted. So there's a kind of a trust in your intuition there as well, that you know don't practically always have to do that. You just need to understand what the task is, maybe ask the right questions, and your psyche, your intuition, your deeper knowing will figure that out while you're sleeping. And when you wake up, you'll understand what it is that you need to do. You'll understand the mess. So there's a deeper understanding there about cleansing your aura or your energy field or your psyche or whatever on a regular basis, knowing and understanding the more difficult situations, the more difficult questions, the more difficult scenarios like the poppy seeds and the dirt, understanding what it is that you want, but also then knowing and having faith in the fact that your intuition and your psyche will sort it out for you as long as you have clear instructions. Okay, so then we've got what are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, number 7 is the questions. So Vasalisa asks Baba Yaga before she leaves questions, and that's about this the guy on the horse she saw, and every time it's a dog, a white, a red, or a black horse. And that's just asking the deeper questions that we sometimes don't want to understand. There's no logical explanation for these things. It's just a deeper understanding that life has cycles, and there will always be life, death, life cycles. Sometimes something will come to an end in your life and you wouldn't want it to, but it just does. And then you need to understand that from out that death comes a new life. From darkness comes light. So there's always a moving through cycles, and understanding those cycles really helps you to not always want to dive deeper into those. You don't always have to understand things logically. There's just a knowing and an acceptance that a cycle has come to an end and it's time to let go. It's time to move on. And that is one of the most intimate places that you can be with your intuition, knowing and understanding that that has come to an end and it's time to move on and it's time to let go, instead of wasting your time in a space where you're trying to revive something that was once something that you love, but you can't. It's done. Move on. You've learned what you needed to learn from that cycle. Time to jump into the next one. So that's number 7, questioning. Number 8 is getting your fire back. So after the questions, Baba Yaga gives Vassilissa this fiery skull on a stick and she gets her fire back. She gets her deeper knowing back. She now understands all of these intricate parts of her psyche and knows how to clean it. She knows how to sort things out. She knows that she can trust her intuition to do the things in her sleep even, and sort things out in the background, if you will. And she now is ready to take that fire back home, to take it back to reality. Because mostly all of these 1 to 7 steps actually happens while we're meditating, actually happens in internal reflection. It happens while we're journaling. It happens while we're listening to frequency music. It's not something that anyone from the outside can see. It's a very internal cleansing and understanding and digging up your intuition before you can actually take that out to scenarios where you have to make bigger decisions in life, have to really tackle your demons, and the situations that you want to change in your life. So that's only at step number 8 of the 9-step process. So then you take this fire back, and then the 9th step is your senses, your fiery senses are alight when you are back at your reality. Then you can use that skull to really burn to a crisp whatever it is that needs to go, whatever it needs that needs to fade away. And you will get scared of that knowing. You will get scared of that deeper intuition, of that fierce senses, because immediately things will just start to pop up, and sometimes you won't want to believe the fiery skull, and you'll get scared and you'll want to toss it. But it's important for you to not toss it, to understand and trust that those senses that you've dug up from all of this conditioning actually is pointing you to the right direction for yourself. And even if you don't follow those intuitions, that voices, there's no right and wrong answer, guys. This world is full of choices. There are so many things that we decide on a daily basis, and then the next moment we change our minds anyway. And that's the beauty of it all, is that even though we have all of these choices and we have freedom of choice, is that there's no right or wrong answer. You will learn what you need to learn in this life. Doesn't matter what path you choose. The only thing is that if you have that intuition guiding you, the process becomes a bit easier. It's not necessarily that you won't have to make painful decisions. It's just that there will be a deeper knowing there, and understanding that even though you don't logically comprehend why you are making this decision, you know, knowing that it's the right one. And there's a lot less worrying about it. There's a lot less drama. There's so much more peace with that. Even though sometimes the decisions will still scare you, the decisions that you have to make, there will be so much peace and power with that, because you know and you understand to the depth of your core who and what you are. And there's so much freedom in that. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I never struggle with a decision in my life anymore. Nada. I still have those moments, but I would like to believe that I'm definitely much less of a worrying, much less of a stressor, and much more understanding and faithful to my nature, to who it is that I actually am, and that who I actually want to be. Not so much involved with what other people think anymore. Although there's still a lot of room for working on that, still working on it. And that's the process, and that's the beauty of it. We just work on it. We always work on it. Sometimes you go back a step in this process, and then you have to sort poppy seeds again. But that's okay, because that's the beauty in life, and understanding that there is something deeper. There's this little voice, and yeah. Anyway, okay, so that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story of Vassilissa and Baba Yaga. I really enjoyed it, and it really did spark in me the process to start digging deeper and uncovering my wildest side. So I'm hoping that that inspires you as well. And if you want more inspirations like that, seriously go and read Women Who Run with the Wolves. It will rock your world, I promise you. Okay, please follow me on Instagram, b_a_ripple. Please subscribe to this channel coming to you every Saturday. Please check out my website for more on all of the content that I create. I love you guys. All my love. Bye.